Hello readers and writers, welcome back to the channel. Today we are finally going to be talking about Cormac McCarthy's The Road and why I believe it is the greatest novel I have ever read. First and foremost, I went into this novel completely blind. I really had no idea what to expect. I heard a few things about it. Honestly, I thought it was a Western before I ever read it because Cormac McCarthy writes a lot of Western kind of stories, and I thought that this was one of them. But I was wrong. It is actually a post-apocalyptic journey story. And at its root, it's a father-son journey story with human perseverance and hope as like the main themes of this novel. And this novel absolutely blew me away. I mean, genuinely, I can't say enough about how much I enjoyed every single second of this book. And really, it is easily the best novel I have ever read. Now, why is that? Why did I enjoy it as much as I did? I have a lot of reasons, and I will start with the characters as a good jumping in point. Characters in this are few and far between. There are really only two main characters, and funnily enough, they're not even really named. One is called Papa, or father, and the other is the boy, and which is like his son. And that's it. I mean, genuinely, that's actually it for the characters. There really aren't any more than that are like the main central characters. You meet a lot of other people on the journey, but no one that is like reoccurring that stays around and is like in the main ensemble. So just keep that in mind. If you're going into this thinking, oh, I'm going to get a bunch of different characters that I'm going to fall in love with and grow with and be attached to, no, that's not this book. This book truly is a father-son story. I would say it's very similar to the God of War video game in that sense, where really Kratos and Atreus are like the main characters. And yes, you do meet a lot of other people, but you're not going to get any of the other like reoccurring people that you're going to be seeing popping up throughout the story. This really is just those two characters, and it's their story. That's it. I really don't know how else to explain it. So just keep that in mind if you're going into it. Now, those two characters, however, are great. You really can feel the pain and the suffering and the torment of both of these characters, but especially through the lens of the father. I mean, this guy is just trying to raise a son in this post-apocalyptic wasteland, and he's struggling, as would anyone. This story really does not beat around the bush. It shows you everything. And it shows you how hard it actually would be to raise a child in that setting. It has a lot of introspective moments. It has a lot of honest moments, things that you just wouldn't expect to see. I mean, you'd think in a novel like this, it's just going to be all sunshine and rainbows. For like this father taking his kid through this land. Oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. But no. Cormac McCarthy does not hold back. And some of the things that these characters see and experience and have to do is just utterly insane. We're going to get to all that later, like what some of the stuff you see in it. But just continue with the characters for a second. It has some of just the best character moments I have ever seen in a novel. Genuinely. I mean, the relationship that Papa and the boy have throughout this really is just heartwarming. It's heartbreaking at the same time. It's tragic, it's beautiful, and if you're just looking for a story really where two characters are mainly just talking to each other virtually the whole time, you're not jumping around, you're not seeing different perspectives, you're not seeing different lands and different things and meddling of other characters, no, this is just these two characters talking while walking down a road mostly, or camping next to the road, and it is incredible. Absolutely incredible. So just keep that in mind. That pretty much covers the characters for this novel. I don't know what else to say about them. We're gonna get into some more stuff later, but just keep in mind that the characters in this are very sparse, and they do not really interact with a whole lot of other people, but the interactions between the two characters are amazing and should be more than enough to satiate you while you're reading this. So just thought I would put that out there. Next, let's talk about the atmosphere and world. And I'm going off my little sheet here. These are my only notes here. So next, we're going to talk about atmosphere and world and what you will experience while you're reading this book. Like I said before, this is a post-apocalyptic world. We don't know exactly what caused the end of the world. I'm a big believer in a nuclear fallout, and these are not spoilers either because he doesn't really explain it. Maybe you'll get hints and tidbits in there, but actually even in interviews, he really says he doesn't give a shit what it is. It does not matter what caused the end of the world. What matters is what are you going to do now? That's his big thing. Comes straight from the author. So yeah, I believed it was a nuclear, battle or a nuclear war or whatever else. But a lot of people think it was also a meteor strike or a super volcanic eruption, something like that. So yeah, you can kind of pick apart your own theories with this. I think with a lot of the themes in this, I think it's a kind of an anti-war, anti-nuclear war story. And I think it does a really good job at that. But it doesn't really have any radiation and things like that in it. So a lot of people say that that's not true. But that's what I took away from it. I thought it was kind of an anti-war story. But regardless, you're going to get a eerie, desolate, destroyed, ruined wasteland that these two characters are slowly churning through, trying to survive, looking for other survivors, trying to eat, trying to make their way through this, camping, making little campfires, staying quiet, staying hidden, sneaking around, things like that. It really felt like to me playing this video game called DayZ that I used to play back in the day with my friends. And that's like one of my favorite games of all time. That is like truly a staple of my childhood. And so to read this and feel like I was back in DayZ, it was incredible. So that's probably why I loved it, honestly, the most, is just the DayZ aspect. And we'll talk about that more later. But if you look up DayZ or you look up like any zombie kind of world like that, that's what you're gonna get in this, but without the zombies, which I think is really refreshing. I think there are way too many stories like that, where it's just a zombie wasteland. Whereas this is going to have only humans in it, no supernatural elements, and it's still just as eerie, and I think that maybe even makes it worse, that it's literally just humans causing all this destruction, chaos, mayhem, and just downright awful, horrible things. It's only humanity doing it, and I think that that's really what he wanted to touch on in this novel. So, besides the world, the dialogue in this is genuinely some of the best I have ever come across. I've never seen dialogue in any novel better than the dialogue in this. Now, there's a disclaimer. Some of the dialogue in this can be very weird and off-putting. And what I mean by that is it can feel very fragmented. Do you want to eat this can of peaches? Yes. Okay. Let's eat the can of peaches. Okay. Sounds good. Let's do it. Okay. Yes. Okay. Back and forth. Like 3 different okays. And you're just like, it really sometimes reads like that. Do you want to go over there? Sure. Okay. Let's go. Okay. Perfect. Let's go. Like, now, I'm obviously brutalizing this, and it's not that bad, but sometimes it really can feel like that. There probably are some Cormac, McCarthy enthusiasts out there who these purists who think, oh my God, it's the greatest, absolute greatest dialogue in the world, and it's all done for a reason. And yes, I do think it is incredible, but just understand that some of the dialogue for most people is going to feel weird in that sense. The best way I can describe really this entire book, besides just the dialogue, is the fact that it reads like a campfire story. So if you go into this with that frame of mind that you're hearing a campfire story, I think you're gonna really, really enjoy this. Cormac McCarthy doesn't even really write with commas. He uses no descriptions of like he said, she said, things like that. he uses periods, obviously, but like the punctuation is pretty much non-existent. Um, it's hard to explain, but you just have to read it to see. There are like no commas, so you will have these gigantic run-on sentences with no commas. But if you're reading it like a campfire story, and you're just, I mean, even like a video like this, like me talking, where I'm kind of just jumping all over the place. If you listen to it or read it like that, it makes way more sense. So definitely keep that in mind if you plan on reading this. When I heard that it reads like a campfire story, it blew me away. Like that's honestly what drew me in, and I like the fact that there are like no commas. Like I like, and now not having like he said, she said, the boys said. Like there's a few occasionals in there, but in reality, sometimes it can actually get quite confusing, and you might be like, wait, hold on, who's talking? Especially because the character voices are strong, but sometimes they say the same thing, like okay, like who said that? Both of them are saying okay. There's no difference in that, so that's how it can kind of get confusing. But if you just go into it like it's a campfire story, I think you'll have a really, really, really good time. Grammatical purists might think that it's an abomination, but it's written so freaking well that I can't understand how you can think that. Which moves me on to the prose. And the prose is jaw-dropping. The dialogue in this is incredible. And honestly, there is so much meaning in the way that the characters talk to each other, especially the way that the father speaks to the boy. But even in the prose, everything is so deliberate. Everything is so meaningful. Every line is impactful. And this novel is probably one of the greatest novels I've ever read, just in a pure literary, like from a pure literary standpoint. The Road is it for me. Like that's probably the best I've ever come across. The prose in this will blow you away, even without any commas. There are some passages in this that I just had to stop myself. Like I couldn't keep reading. I just had to stop. Now I'd have to go back and reread it, or I would have to sit there and process it and think about it. And it's amazing. Like genuinely, some of the most incredible prose, some of the most incredible dialogue, some of just the most incredible moments, passages I've ever seen in any book, where you get these hints of philosophy, or these musings from the father on what he's thinking, or these flashbacks that you don't really think are important, and you're like, okay, why are we talking about this random thing right now? But then you realize, wait, that has meaning. Pretty much every single thing, maybe every single thing in this novel has meaning. It is all impactful, it's all meaningful, and Cormac McCarthy writes with such deliberation that I've never seen that before. It honestly impressed me so much, and it really makes me want to go back and look at my own writing, and especially going forward with whatever I write next, how do I write in the most deliberate way possible? I already try and do that, but this definitely upped the ante for me. I've never seen something like that. If you really want a thought-provoking, introspective, deep novel that you're just all of a sudden reading, you just get a huge just dump of philosophy, this is it, 100%. And if you guys know any other books that are like that, please let me know. We'll talk about that at the end. Yeah, the philosophy in this is amazing, mind-blowing. I've never come across something that has really made me think deeper about anything I've ever read than this. I mean, Dune is up there. Dune definitely could be considered one of those types of books, in which I'll say Dune has a lot of that in there. But this just clicked better for me. This clicked better for me in every single way. Whereas Dune was great, but it didn't really click for me. But this did. So if you're looking for something like that, and maybe you even read Dune and it didn't work for you, this is going to be up there. This might work for you. I don't really know what else to say about the prose. I mean, it's just beautiful. And I know I'm just going crazy about this book right now, but if you want something that just makes you sit back and just go, what the fuck, it's this book. Now, moving on from the prose, we can talk about the action and some of the just horrible things that happen in this novel. First and foremost, the action in this is quite light. There pretty much is no action. There are a few scenes where they're either running away from someone or fighting someone or in a tense standoff, but there aren't going to be any gigantic action fighting sequences, whatever else. Random commenters will say, oh, well, you only read books for the action. This book had like no action in it, and it is still maybe this is the greatest novel I've ever read. This might be my favorite novel of all time. So this had no action in it, and I still loved it. So if you are an action-focused reader, then this might seem a bit slow for you. But if you're interested in the philosophy and the character relationships and the world and just Cormac McCarthy's incredible writing style, then this book is going to be for you. I just thought I would mention the action just because I like to read a lot of action and things like that. And so I always mention in the books that I'm reading, this one had a lot of action. This didn't really have a lot of action. And so this book, just putting that out there, does not have much action. That doesn't mean it won't get your heart pumping occasionally or put you on the edge of your seat. It can do that. It's just going to do it in a different way. It's just not going to be big shootouts. So if you're looking for like that DayZ type of story with bunch of guns and bullets flying everywhere and brutal battles and all this stuff and brutal fights and things like that and sneaking into military bases and looting, AR-15s and things like that, you're not going to really get that in these books. Or in this book, I should say. You're not going to get really stuff like that. There's a lot of looting, which is sick, and there are a lot of moments that really remind me of DayZ and stuff, but not the action. So I think that does it for that. And then the horrible things that you're going to see in this are just brutal. Again, when I do these reviews, I just want to give you guys a full overview. Hopefully no spoilers, but a full understanding of what this is. So I don't think I could do that review if I didn't mention some of the brutal things you're going to see in this. There are some very, very haunting images and terrible things that you're going to see while reading this. So if you are on the more squeamish side, this might not be for you. That being said, it's not a horrible, disgusting novel. Again, everything's kind of deliberate, right? So even the bad stuff that you're going to see has meaning behind it. There's never really going to be anything in this novel that's just there for no reason, but there are some bad things. Now, I wouldn't say that he focuses on them for very long. The most you're going to get is like maybe a paragraph or two, maybe even just a sentence, a few lines, whatever else. You're not just going to get page after page of just brutal stuff. Probably the worst thing I've ever read was American Psycho. That book is actually fucked up. This book is not, though. I wouldn't say that this book is just completely fucked up. This book is deliberate in everything it does, and it's not grotesque or just awful for no reason. But I just would like to say you are going to see some terrible, terrible, terrible things in this. Keep that in mind. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the squeamish. If you're not a fan of things like that, probably stay clear of this novel because it gets into some fucked up stuff in some fucked up places. I don't want to spoil anything though, so I'm not going to say what it is. If you want to know specifics, you can just go look them up. If you want to talk about some of the scenes down in the comments, I'm more than happy to do that, but I'll keep it out of this video for now. So getting into should you read it? I think that ties back into what we were just talking about. And I think that if you are looking for a novel that makes you sit back and think and makes you really just ponder and think about your own life and think about the life of these characters and this world and what would I do in this world? What would you do in this world? That's what this book is going to make you ask. So if you're ready to ask those kind of questions, go into that novel. If you're looking for a post-apocalyptic story without zombies or any supernatural elements, read this book. If you're looking for some of the best prose with incredible philosophy and credible storytelling and world building, this story is for you. If you are looking for a light, fun, easy read, this is not for you. Now, this was actually easier to read than I ever expected. For many of the videos I've talked about, I'm not like the fastest reader on the planet. I am getting faster as I'm reading more books, but I'm not like insanely fast, and yet I read this very quickly. But I actually had to pace myself because I probably could have read this over the course of a few days, which I was not expecting from Cormac McCarthy, because everyone told me, oh my gosh, this is like he writes like in a really like tough way. It's hard to understand, but like I picked up on it perfectly. And there are a few things that I had to like maybe look up, or especially words. You're going to look up a lot of words while you're reading this because he uses some crazy words. But there are a few moments where I just said to myself, I might not have understood that paragraph, but let me just go back and reread that a few times, and then you might start to understand it, or you could like look it up. You could do a few different things, but I feel like I understood most of everything that was in this book, that and all the things that it was really trying to say, or at least my interpretations of what it was trying to say. And this is like the first true literary book that I read like that, besides maybe Dune, that I felt like I fully comprehended everything I was reading, and it was honestly a very awesome experience. So don't go into this if you're afraid that it's going to be too hard to understand, or too difficult, or too whatever. I think it actually gave me a lot more confidence to read anything else pretty much now, because I thought that this was like the gold standard. So there are going to be some books still that are challenging to me, but this book was surprisingly on the easier side to read, and I think that you might find that yourself. So if you are looking for maybe a book like that, that is an incredible piece of literature but isn't too difficult to understand, then check this out. But if you're looking for a light, fun, easy, walk in the park, sit back, relax, it's not this book. This book is intense. This book is heavy. I would even recommend that you would be in the right headspace as well while you're reading this book, because it can be tough. The ending is tough. The whole book is tough. It's not fun. There are lighter moments in it, like moments of brevity where you just sit there and you go, okay, I can breathe, I can relax a little bit, but few and far between. There's like only like one or two of those in the whole book. So just keep that in mind. Your heart's going to be pumping. It's not a walk in the park. If you like DayZ, survival stories, like I already said, if you like those kind of post-apocalyptic things, you're going to like this. You're going to love this novel, actually. If you're a big fan of fantasy and sci-fi only, this book is probably not going to be up your alley. Because there's no magic. There's no magic, there's no advanced technology, there are no sci-fi fantastical elements, nothing like that. So understand that. It's not a story like that. I like a lot of magic in my stories, but again, I still ended up loving this. So yeah, I think that if you've watched to this point in the video, I think you should already just go and read it. I don't think me telling you if you should or shouldn't probably isn't going to do anything. At least I can try and help, steer you in the right direction. I would definitely recommend reading this book if you have the time, if you're in the right headspace, and if you just want a damn good but heartbreaking story. Besides that, I can't recommend this to everyone. I actually wouldn't even recommend this to everyone. Even though it is the greatest novel I've ever read. I truly think this novel just spoke to me just in a different way. I read it at the perfect time. It worked. Everything worked in this novel for me. So that might not be the case for you. Keep that in mind, okay? I don't want to just convince everyone to go out and read this. There might be some books in the future where I'm like, I'll recommend this to everyone. I probably wouldn't recommend The Road to everyone. It's going to be a very taste by taste kind of thing. Like if one person likes one type of book another person likes this type, I'm probably only going to recommend it to that other person. You know, it's tough. It's going to be divisive. And so you just got to keep that in mind and really go into it if you are planning on reading it. If you haven't read something like this before, keep an open mind. Don't give up on it. It's great. If you're not loving it really by like the first page, you might not actually love it. I'll just put that out now. I was hooked like in the first page or two. I love the writing style. I love Cormac McCarthy's voice. I love the world. I loved the premise of it. And I was hooked off the first page. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, wait until you're 500 pages in. Well, wait until you're this or that. This book is not that book. Like, this is not that big of a book right there. You see that? So that will go by quick. So don't go into it thinking, oh, well, once I get to 200 pages, I'll start to like it. Like, no, you should like this book at the start, immediately, in my opinion. You could probably give it a few, pages, probably like 10 pages or something, but you should probably like it at the beginning if you're going to stick with the whole thing. Another thing to keep in mind, there are no chapters. There are like page breaks. You got the 3 little dots, things like that, but there are no dedicated chapters. This is just one long-winded campfire story. Kind of like how my videos are, right? So yeah, you're not going to get chapters in this. There's no table of contents, something like that. It really is just one big story. So that's why I do say, just go into it. Even the structure doesn't really make sense. There are a lot of chapters of just them or a lot of sections of the book of just them walking, talking, sleeping on the side of the road, that kind of thing. The structure it doesn't even reach a climax. It honestly ends in a bit of an anticlimactic way. And I think that's the point of it. Because it's like in these post-apocalyptic worlds, it's not a damn movie. Like this is like that. It's such a realistic story. It's not going to just show you sunshine and roses and say everything's okay. It's a very serious, mature post-apocalyptic story that does not pull its punches and shows you the real horrors of what the end of the world would actually look like in a very smart and sophisticated way. So yeah, that's what you're looking for. Go for it. And I think that pretty much does it for me with the road review. 10 out of 10 for me. That's my rating of this book. I definitely recommend you go check it out if you're interested in all the things I talked about. And besides that, what I plan on reading next is The Name of the Wind. This novel, I know, is going to ruffle some feathers with a lot of people, and also a lot of people are going to be very hyped for it. So I'm so excited to get into Name of the Wind. It has been a long time coming. My friend recommended that I read this a long time ago, and it's taken like probably 6 months for me to finally get to this point because I wanted to finish all of Harry Potter. I wanted to read Dune. I wanted to read The Road right here. I want to read a Terry Pratchett book. So finally, I've gotten to Name of the Wind. And I know a lot of you, especially my subscribers, are going to be very happy to see this. I will do a full video. I assume I have a lot to talk about with this book, or I will have a lot to talk about. I know a lot of you guys love this. I also know that it is unfinished. I know that. Please. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's unfinished. Why are you even starting it? Whatever else. Like, who cares? Like, I've already explained this in previous videos. I kind of read just for the research of it. I don't always just read for pleasure. I do read sometimes just to see different versions of prose and different characters, different stories, things like that. And this is one of those that, yes, it's unfinished, but what can you do, right? I mean, sometimes you just got to read a book when everyone else says it's amazing, and this is one of those books. So that is Name of the Wind. We will have a lot to talk about once that time comes. For now, I've got to get back to reading this, and that pretty much does it for today's video. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And if you have any thoughts about what we talked about today, please drop them down in the comments below. I would be happy to talk to you guys about characters, books, stories, whatever you want. Love to hear from you guys. And if you have any other book recommendations on what you want to see me read next, please let me know down in the comments below as well. Now, I'd just like to say that grad school has gotten very busy recently, so I'm just trying my best to stay on top of all the work and these videos. So I'm hoping to get you guys that Dark Tower, should you read it video, hopefully around next week or the week after. And then also the Invincible video will be coming soon. And then just, yeah, Name of the Wind hopefully after that, depending on how long it takes me to read it. I assume it's going to be a quick read. And then we'll just see where we go from there. Just want to keep getting more videos out to you guys, talk about more books, whatever else. Got a few, I want to do some more writing advice videos. I want to talk about my own books, things like that. So it's all just going to be coming out when it comes, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, thank you guys all so much again for watching. And as always, happy reading and writing, and I'll see you guys next time.